I'm finally done watching Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, and I've put together the top 5 things Jill said in that documentary series. The documentary features a lot of people that have a lot to say about the IBLP, Bill Gothard, but honestly, I was most interested in what Jill had to say, of course, and this is her perspective. But before we jump into it, I'll also sprinkle some honorable mentions of things that had me on the edge of my seat at the very end of this video. So let's get started. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. The top 5 things Jill said in Shiny Happy People are: number 5. Jill says that she regrets that infamous Megyn Kelly interview where she cried and kind of stuck up for Josh and made it seem like, although she was obviously the victim, everything that happened didn't really seem that bad or whatever. She was there with Jessa, and she says that she wouldn't have done it and that she was bearing the burden and the weight of it all and felt obligated to volunteer to help. Derek then chimes in and says, he wouldn't call it volunteer, but more like they needed to take the fall to save the show. I would agree. So Jill says she had never said no to her parents up to that point before and thought that something bad would happen to her if she did say no. And this is totally reminiscent to when Ginger told that story about once she heard like drums and music or something and thought something bad was going to happen to them. There's just a lot of fear there. So ironically, in the IBLP religion, everyone is given this spiritual gift, and Jill's was mercy giver, which basically means she removes distress and shares and collects burdens. Like, who wants to collect burdens? Not me. Another person actually interviewed said that a lot of women were given mercy giver in the IBLP, which is interesting and not surprising, but some burdens, are just too much to bear. So number 4, a few weeks out from the birth of their first child, Israel, the production company that I guess produced Counting On and 19 Kids and Counting asked Jill about being there during the birth. They said, maybe we'll have one camera. And Jill said she actually pushed back and said, I don't want you guys in there, like, at all. And they were like, at all? She didn't want to have the same experience as Anna, who it looked by the flashback footage like she gave birth on a toilet, which, did I miss an episode or something? Because I don't remember that. I feel bad for her. She says, I knew for sure no one's in my delivery room, but ultimately production did win this battle, and they were given cameras to film their own footage with. Then Jill contacted TLC to ask for money for out-of-pocket costs for the birth that was filmed but on national television, but weirdly they said, they paid the family, so take it up with Jim Bob sort of thing. And money quickly became an issue, and Jill says she never received any paycheck, no money, for 7.5 years of her adult life while being a star on a national television show, Counting On. Like, she was the star, which is insane. She gave birth on camera, for God's sakes. Okay, and the irony is, think about the Kardashians and how it's a whole thing. So number 3, Jill says that the day before her wedding to Derek, there was this thing everyone was signing on the kitchen table, and everyone was like called to sign on it one by one. She didn't even know what it was for, and what they found out later is that it was a commitment for 5 years for the show. TLC had negotiated with Jim Bob, but like not with like the kids or the adult kids or whatever it seemed. I mean, that's what Jill claims. Number 2, seems like things got more contentious when Derek and Jill went to El Salvador. I think they went there with their baby. Remember that whole thing? While doing mission work over there, Jim Bob had the show back up and running with Counting On, and TLC was pressing Jill and Derek to come back for like this photo shoot, and they said basically you have to do it. And Jill was like, we're here for 10 months. And it became like a matter of principle for her. And they pushed back and said no. She said, no, like, we cannot do what you're asking us to do. And it was like an aha moment, and they realized that they actually had no choice. She says, my dad sent us the signature page and the obligation page on the contract, and she realized she had signed that agreement before that wedding, and apparently the thing she didn't know what it was, that's what it was. At one point, Jim Bob asked Derek, like, so what do you want, like $10 an hour? And Derek said, like, well, what is it worth? And they kept going back and forth, and Jim Bob kept offering $10 an hour. $10 an hour. I mean, is that lower than minimum wage or something? In most places, I think, right? So for putting your life on national television, please. Well, Derek is not a pushover. He then asked to go all the way to TLC, but the representative for the family or something said, like, you can't go without me, and like it got kind of like messy. Around that time, Jill says that Jim Bob said that thanks to Derek, he was going to like pay some of the older kids a lump sum, but you had to sign another deal with him and his production company for like forever. So it kind of sounds like he was like, okay, I'll give you this little bit of money, but you have to like sell your soul. I don't know. It kind of, and from there, they found out on social media that their relationship with TLC came to an end. And number one, Derek got this weird, creepy text message from a burner phone, he says, that seemed super scary, and he actually reported it to the police. He didn't say who he thought it was from, and honestly, Derek probably did not know what he was getting into with the Duggars at the beginning of it all when he asked Jim Bob to be his prayer partner before Nepal. Remember that, guys? So wonder who sent that text message and who operates a burner phone. I feel like that's like a red flag. So honorable mentions from the series that I just watched. So apparently Michelle went off birth control, I guess, you know, before Josh, and then after Josh she went back on it. Then she had a miscarriage, and this was before Jana and John. And I think, by all my impressions, I feel like she blamed birth control for her miscarriage, and this is seemingly kind of the reason why she just like said like, okay, we'll just like let God decide. That's my impression from it. Anyways, apparently also Jill's grandparents, she says, were not like super on board with the fact that Jim Bob and Michelle had like 1 million children, and the Duggars would always be like on the lookout for those kids eat free places, which is smart, actually, very smart on their part. And finally, Jill says that you have to go through hell before you risk everything to get out of those situations. Then you start making your own decisions little by little, for example, her nose ring, and do what you need to do to survive. So, all the best to Jill. I thought it was a really interesting documentary. I learned quite a bit about a lot. I didn't know a lot about the IBLP. I have to admit that. Because on the show, they don't like super talk about it or anything like that. Like, I wasn't really aware that they were so, you know, they were following it so much. Anyways, maybe I was naive. But all right. Thank you so much for watching the whole way through, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!